Okay, so we're going to discuss now the topic on managerial ethics. This is a very difficult topic because it's almost like all of you are adults and we do know what is right and what is wrong. So the situation is, what is the need to study this at this stage? But if you look around, a lot of corporate houses and a lot of organizations do engage in unethical practices, which often get detected. But a lot of times they go undetected and creates a whole lot of all-round problems for all the stakeholders of the organization. So this is a kind of an introductory session on managerial ethics, and I'm just going to be discussing with you the key terms and the key issues that you should be understanding before we get into the okay. So the key objectives of the session is, let's first be clear about certain terms and definitions, and then look at what kind of managers we have with respect to the levels of morality. Then we're going to look at a very interesting formula called the 4I formula, which is a very nice and a simple method to evaluate whether whatever your organization is doing is ethical or unethical. And finally, have a look as to why do people really end up being bad in their ethics when they jolly well know what's right and what's wrong. So what does the term ethic means? So ethic conveys a whole discipline of thinking where we can evaluate actions of people into the category of good or bad in the context of morality. So the two terms here are what is moral and what is ethics. But we'll come to the moral part and its definition in a little while. So whenever we divide human behavior or organizational practices or managerial activities into good or bad practices within the context of morality, it is known as ethics. So behavior that is, which is, it is possible to judge with respect to being good or bad is ethics. So for example, if you're doing a simple sum of addition, there's nothing good and bad in the activity of a plus or a minus or a multiplication. That behavior is not related to morality and ethics. But when we talk of, let's say, producing a cigarette to be sold, then you can definitely say whether making cigarettes is good or bad, because we all know cigarettes can lead to cancer or all kinds of problems. So some ethics can come into that situation. Now, what is morality? Morality is nothing but a kind of a belief that decides what is right and wrong. So this belief, from where does it come? It can come from religion. For example, all Islamic countries follow, their sense of morality comes from what the Sharia says. And what is Sharia? Sharia is nothing but what the Quran prescribes and what the Prophet Muhammad's sayings or the hadith has prescribed. So the Sharia is a religious moral philosophy. If you take a country like India, our constitution defines what is moral. So it's basically democratic, equality, whether it's caste or male or female or anything. And of course, if you look at the social structure, our Indian traditions that come from our scriptural philosophy, even that decides what is morality. So whenever we talk of morality, it is from which source the ideas of rightness and wrongness are coming. It could be religious, it could be political, it could be philosophical. Then if you look at different sectors, so good and bad practices is ethics within the context of morality, and you know from where morality comes, and applied to different sectors. So when you talk of business ethics, we are talking of right and good, wrong practices within morality in business. When you talk of doctors or medical ethics, we are talking of right and wrong practices within the context of morality in the medical profession. When we talk of teachers' ethics, we are talking about right and wrong practices, and each would be different. For example, if a corporation is giving bribe to the government or not paying taxes, that is a different kind of unethical practice. If you're looking at teachers who are doing favoritism, then that's teachers' ethics. Or if you look at doctors who are unnecessarily charging their patients for treatment they don't require, then we are talking of poor medical ethics. So the bigger canopy is morality. And when morality decides right and wrong behavior, that is ethics. And when ethics is applied to specific professions and vocations like teacher, medicine, doctors, engineers, that becomes ethics. So what is the scope of ethics? It's everywhere. It's pervasive. So how the employee-employer relations, employer-employee relations, customer-company relations, company-shareholder, company, community, public. So practically ethics, I mean, frankly, there should not be a separate subject like ethics. All of us should just be doing things correctly. But ethics applies everywhere. Sorry. And where do we learn ethics from? So again, you can see there are so many sources. So ethics basically resides in your brain and in your conscience. And the conscience is actually in your heart. Because if your brain decides that this is unethical, the heart starts feeling pinched. So don't ignore the heart. The heart is a very good barometer to tell you whether you're being unethical or unethical. But every time you cheat, every time you I mean, you've been doing it so frequently that your conscience has got killed. You don't feel anything. So how does this conscience develop? It develops from what your family has taught you, what you see your friends doing. It depends on how you understand the law, the legal system, how religious you are, the kind of company you're working for, and the kind of ethics they promote. So all these things create the sense of ethics inside you. So it's very important that your surrounding influences are ethical. If you're surrounded by the wrong kind of influences, you too will become unethical. Now, what's the difference between law and ethics? So law is your codified norms of behavior. So the Indian Penal Code 1, 2, 30, 40, 498, all these are articulated behaviors which are mandatory for every Indian citizen to follow. And if they do not follow, they become a criminal of some sort. So law is the bare minimum of ethics. It represents the ethical minimum. Because if you break the law, you have committed some kind of an offense which can be penalized. But if you don't break the law, that also doesn't mean you're the most ethical person. Why I'm saying this is because ethics is very big picture. And frankly, any and everything of what is right and wrong in this very big picture cannot be codified in the form of a law. And therefore, you should have a strong sense of what is social justice, what is personal justice, what is religious justice, all this sense which is there inside you, which is not written in a lawyer's book or in the constitution, that understanding is ethics. So to be ethical doesn't mean that, oh, I follow the law. It means much, 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 much more. Because frankly, the law is only made when something really comes to the bottom, you know. Okay. So now, as a manager, how are you when you have to take decisions and act? Which supplier to take, which product to sell, which selling methodology you should adopt, what kind of advertisement should be made to promote this product. So all these corporate decisions are based on decisions which managers have to routinely take. So this is a very interesting formula, which again can be used to take decisions which come within the canopy of ethical actions. So if you understand that whenever I do something in the corporation, I have to fulfill at the same time legal responsibility, economic responsibility, and ethical responsibility. So what is legal responsibility? Legal responsibility means that whatever your company does has to be lawful. Economic responsibility means that when you are employed somewhere, whatever you do should be productive and profitable for the organization. However, it should also conform to, even if it's legal and it's economically profitable, it should also conform to the larger sense of ethics of the community and the system in which you are embedded, which is again, the ethical responsibility is difficult to understand. So if you look at the section 1, if you take a decision which is within 1, it means your decisions are profitable, within law, and also within the larger sense of ethics the community has. If you take a decision on and 2A, this area, then definitely you're legal, you're profitable, but you may be violating the sense of ethics which the public wants. Okay. And if you look at 2B, you may be economically profitable. You may also conform to the larger sense of ethics, but there might be some law that you're breaking, and that could be a little tricky. So if you can look at all these sections, but the ideal place to be is at 1. So what do? If you're in 2A or 2B or 3, you have to then do creative thinking and find methods and means to come to a situation where all your decisions are both legally responsible, economically responsible, and ethically responsible. If you look at area 1, it leads to no discomfort because you're fulfilling all 3 circles in the Venn diagram. In 2A, you're profitable and legal, but may not have support of the non-market forces. In 2B, you're profitable and ethical, but you're not sure about the legality, so you should proceed carefully. And in area 3, it is ethical and legal, but it's not profitable. You have to find ways and means to be profitable without diluting the others. So this is a very interesting formula to decide whether and how you should proceed when you're taking decisions in an organization. And typically, another way to understand people is by looking at their sense of morality. So what they've done is you've categorized into 3 types of managers: moral, amoral, and immoral. So let's look at these. An immoral manager is easy to understand. They take decisions. If you look at the first column, they take decisions and actions which are definitely in opposition to ethical norms. Such people are utterly and totally selfish. They're only looking at their self-interest. Their goal is only personal profit at any cost. And laws are a barrier that must be turned and broken or exploited or manipulated. So there are so many people around you you can find like this. You know, your Nirav Modis, your Vijay Mallya, your Ramalingam Raju of the Satyam. These are all people who come in the category of immorality. Then there is the amoral manager, which most of us are. We believe that we have ethical awareness. However, we are definitely selfish, but or rather, we believe that morality is something that doesn't concern me. I mean, we're just doing our work. You know, I'm a teacher. I just go and teach. You know, and what's the big deal of morality and non-moral? We don't even think of morality. We don't even reflect on it. We are good, well-interested people, but definitely selfish. Look, I'm taking my class. I don't care about anything else. Profit is a motivator, but not at any cost. And letter of law is the minimum guideline for actions and decisions. So it's quite possible that you never prepare for your lecture, but you're there in the class every day. So nobody can judge you. No, I took my class, but how you took your class, that's where the ethics and morality comes in. And then there is a moral manager. All the decisions conform to legal and professional and social norms. There is definitely self-interest, but it's enlightened self-interest. Personal profit as per law and ethical standards, and such people will follow the letter and the spirit of the law. See, this is very important to understand that every law has a letter and spirit. What is written is the letter of the law, but that represents the larger sense of morality, which is the spirit of the law. So the people who are crooks, they will just follow the letter of the law, and that's what they will fight in the court of law if they are caught. Now, no, I did this, but then the judge will, of course, decide whether what you did also fulfill the spirit of the law or not. So you can, you know, you just have to look around and see what kind of company you keep. Are they moral? Are they amoral? Or are they moral? You'll find a lot of people fall in the amoral category. Okay. So ultimately, how do you make ethics actionable? Ethics are actionable through systems and structures and the top management leadership behavior. So depending on the kind of leaders you have, you know, your principals, your vice chancellor, your CEOs, your managers, your general managers, if they are ethical, they will send a strong message down and most people will be ethical. You also have to have ethical systems and structures in place. That means there has to be an ethical manual in every organization, and people should be periodically made aware of what constitutes ethics in their sector of their profession. And of course, you have to focus on your own self-development. Yes, if you look at this figure. So as a manager, if you look, you'll be here. You have to take decisions which always have two components, the market strategy and the non-market environment. What is the market environment? Market environment are those people, your vendors, your suppliers, with whom you have a contractual relationship. And the non-market environment is the larger public with whom you don't have a direct relationship. But an ethical manager will try his best or her best to balance the needs of both. So market environment includes interactions between farmers, firms, suppliers, and customers. And interactions typically are voluntary and economic transaction, exchange of properties. This is very easy. You know, there are contracts and most contracts are legal, and you don't have to worry too much. But you have to worry about the non-market component of your business or your life. So it is composed of social, political, and legal arrangements that structure interactions outside, but in conjunction. So this is the larger public, which, if you remember that Venn diagram, which had three circles, you know, the legal responsibility, economic responsibility, and your ethical responsibility. This non-market environment is that circle, you know, where this is the larger sense of the big picture of ethics. The 4I model is a very useful model to understand this larger sense of ethics. So let's say you're working in an organization. You can use this model to get a sense of the larger sense of ethics. And by examining your, let's say, product that you're making or the service that you're offering based on the issue, interest, institutions, and information. So this is an exercise which every manager should do. So what is the 4I? Issue is there a problem related to your line of work? You should also know who are the interested parties, who seeks to gain and who seeks to lose from this issue. You should also know what is the institution, that is law, regulation, organization, and systems related to this particular issue. And finally, you should be fully on top of all the information in this related area. Let's look at the example of human consumption of tobacco. So I'm talking of companies that are making cigarettes or making gutka or are making, you know, those chewable tobacco. So let's see the ethics of, so what is the issue? So issue for tobacco is that it's a health hazard. You can ask this question whether it's right or wrong, because it leads to, it's a serious health hazard. It causes cancer of the larynx, oral cavity, pharynx, esophagus. We also know that a lot of young people start smoking cigarette by the time they're teenagers and then become addicted to it. And we also know that cigarette smoking in pregnancy can lead to low birth weight, or if the husband is smoking, there could be a case of passive smoking leading to cancer. So tobacco has health issues which are hazardous. So therefore the issue of morality and right and wrong definitely comes here. Now, a good manager will also examine that what are the interest groups related to for and against production of tobacco. So manufacturers of cigarettes will be for it, workers' unions will be for it, medical and health insurance will be for it, and the farmers who produce tobacco also will be for it. But there would be several other organizations which would be against the production of tobacco and cigarette, and you should be on top of that. Okay. And then if you look at institutions, one second, I don't know what's happened. Okay. Anjali.
Hey, ma'am.
Anjali, one or two slides have kind of got a little mixed up.
Ma'am, so, ma'am, you can continue, ma'am, not an issue.
Okay. All right. So you do a little bit of editing at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
So we've discussed issues, we've discussed interest groups. The third I is your institutions. So there would be the law, and then there would be information. So information would be all the research and R&D that's going on in the area of production of tobacco, consumption of tobacco, how to make tobacco less harmful than what it is. And maybe these factors can go in deciding what the the company needs to do in order to be more ethical in case it decides to continue with production of tobacco. Now, good question which you should ask is, why is it that businesses end up being more unethical than families and other types of non-profit organizations? So for this, we have to first understand what is a business. So basically, a business is a form of exchange where products and services are given in exchange of money. So it's a method to generate wealth. Then the question comes, for whom? So if it is only to generate wealth for the promoters and owners of the company, but not for the employees and the larger public, then there is an issue over there. Then you can ask a question that what is the method of doing this exchange? You know, I mean, do you sell products without informing the customer if there are any harmful effects to the product? If you hide that, then it's a wrong means, and then the issue of ethics comes. Then you should also ask the question, is business an end in itself? If yes, why? And frankly, business is not an end in itself. Business is a means to make societies wealthy and productive. So if you understand why a business is there, the relationship between the business, organization, environment, and individuals, a lot of issues regarding what is ethical and unethical will get clarified. And this is the last slide, and this is going to help you understand why organizations end up being unethical often and families do not. Both of them are collectives. In a family, there is a collective unit of a father, mother, parents, maybe extended family. And similarly, the organization also has the employers, employees, customers. But in a family, the relationship is lifelong and unconditional with no exit option. I mean, you don't change your father and mother if you don't like it. But an organization is a temporary collective with easy exit options, and it can be conditional, but it's also unconditional sometimes. So there's a difference. You know, if you know you can leave this place, if you don't like it, you'll be less invested in it, but you'll be more invested in the well-being of your family because you know you will not leave it and it's for life. That makes a different kind of an arrangement. Family is a biological investment. Organization is a material and a performance-related investment. And so your behavior also will be different. Relationship in family has got divine sanctity. I mean, if you're married, you do most marriages are conducted under the law or there's religious, so there is a kind of divinity associated with it, but organizations are secular and contractual. So there's nothing, it's very material, you know, it's not, and it's a very give and take kind of a relationship. So that makes you less human there. In a family, hierarchy depends on age and social status. And the elders in the family are generally nurturing and loving. But in organization, hierarchy is transactional. The power which the seniors have can be coercive, and it can also hurt people down there. Resource allocations in families based on social needs. So for example, if there's a handicapped child born in the house, the family will spend a lot of money for the health of this handicapped child who's probably not productive at all. But in an organization, if you have an accident, you can very well accept yourself to be asked to leave the organization. So therefore, families are sustainable. Organizations are not sustainable. Families are have shared values and collaborative, and organizations have diversity and they are competitive. And therefore, organizations become vulnerable. Because relationships are remote, there is less emotionality, and that can make you unkind, and uncompassionate. Because the base of an organization is contractual, then material and positional power is all that drives organization. And therefore, business organizations become vulnerable, and therefore it's easier to discriminate, it's easy to exploit the laborers, it's easy to be greedy because you're not thinking about the others, it is easy to use your prejudice and bias, and therefore there is more stress also in organization. You will be surprised to know that because of COVID and a lot of people are working from homes, a lot of mental health issues have actually in a way got solved, because when you're staying at home, the stress levels of people have gone down. So the potential of being unethical in an organization is much higher than the potential of being unethical within a family. And that's why we have to create artificial systems and structures to teach people to be ethical in an organization, penalize people if they are unethical, because that's going to be harmful. Apart from, of course, the larger picture that if managers and business organizations are not ethical, we also ruin the environment and we ruin societies. Okay. So ultimately, this will be again your last slide. Every organization should have a managerial code of ethics, a document. A culture of ethical values should be developed through training and proper leadership. The external agency laws and regulations have to be very well understood and followed. And finally, there has to be a motivational agency or leadership which drives the ethical culture of an organization. Okay. So we've really done a quick run through, a kind of a preliminary understanding of what makes organizations vulnerable and which is why they end up being ethical. The 4I formula to get a sense of the ethics regarding the work you're doing. And we also clarified the definitions, the meaning of ethics, morality, law, and so on. So this is like a primer for the larger area of ethics in an organization. Okay, thank you.